Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you another video. All right, so I wanted to make another mock draft, but then as I started to work out that mock draft, as I started to try to fill out the names, I just realized that the first mock draft that I made had so much thought put into it. And I don't think I can really duplicate that to make it make as much sense as I thought that first one did. I mean, I was really thrown into it, and every pick had each pick in mind, each roster in mind, and I just don't have the temperament at this point to do another mock draft that would make sense. I could put names next to teams, but it ain't gonna be me matching them up thinking like I was before. So I'd rather leave my mock draft the way it was and encourage everybody to go check out that initial one. But I did want to come here and just kind of talk about a few things in regards to my draft. Maybe a follow-up rather than to make another mock draft, because I really genuinely think that all of that stuff I said, for the most part, with most of the picks in mind, they were things that I actually think these teams either should do. A couple of them I thought the players are going to just ultimately fall, and maybe I could switch some things up further in the back of the draft. But if you talk about the top 10 picks, I got Taylor Hendricks going to the Pistons. I really don't see a better fit for the Pistons in that top 8. I don't see one. Now, a lot of people think they should go to Cam Whitmore, and I could very well put Cam Whitmore at the Pistons, but that I don't actually, you know what I'm saying? I don't actually believe that that's his best place, not for where my head goes when I try to put the best pieces together. So I genuinely think after all this that my mock draft is exactly the way I want it, and it's no sense in just giving you another one slapping teams next to each other if I really genuinely think it should go this exact way. So that's one of the things I just wanted to say. I think that Taylor Hendricks, particularly to the Pistons, is just something that the Pistons should probably want. I was listening to a couple Pistons fans talking about that on a mock draft that I just happened to stumble across, where that person too had Taylor Hendricks as their Pistons pick. And most of the fans that I was able to read in the comment section loved it. They like Taylor Hendricks for them because he fits more what it is that they need. Cam Whitmore is a more fun player to watch, in my humble opinion, based on the highlights. Cam Whitmore is a guy I would love to have on my Laker team, just in a general, because I think he's going to be explosive and fun to watch all night long. But when you talk about the Pistons, they need somebody who can play the perimeter more intentional. You know, Cam can play the perimeter. It's not like you're not going to have him on the wing. He can play some three. But I tend to think that he wants to drive and kind of utilize his ability to get in the paint a little more and dunk a little bit. If you got those two centers in place, which maybe they move on from one mess, which is not a problem, but if they have those two centers in place in Wiseman and Durant, then are you having Wiseman and Durant kind of like one of them's coming off the bench for each other? Maybe that makes more sense since they are true centers, but those are two of the higher upside centers, young centers in the game, in Wiseman and Durant. So am I really bringing in another potential player who's going to be kind of clogging up the paint a little more for them? Neither one of those guys play the perimeter at all. So you just have not enough perimeter play going on down there with amongst your three bigs. So that's my problem with Pistons taking Cam Whitmore. Maybe you trade that pick down to make the value make sense, but I don't think Taylor Hendricks is so far away from Cam Whitmore to where you look crazy for not taking him at 5. I definitely don't. I think Taylor Hendricks has fallen a little bit based on how other people, kind of feel about other players around him. But when you look at who fits what, which one of these players is the most interchangeable players in all of the draft, I think Taylor Hendricks is probably the easiest player to slip into more situations than probably anybody else in that top 10. So I just feel like if you're the Pistons, you let him fall past 5. If he turns into what I think he's going to turn into, you probably regret that. Not necessarily because he's going to be better than some of the other guys, but just because he's probably the most attractive fit for the Pistons. So that's just something I'm stuck to. I know consensus has him falling all the way possibly to 10, maybe going to the Magic at 6, or maybe the Magic take him with the 11th pick if he happens to fall that far. I don't think Mavericks let him fall after that. And I don't actually think the Jazz are going to let Taylor Hendricks fall either. But, the Pacers could obviously go with him or Jarris Walker. You got to make a decision there. Most people tend to think that Jarris Walker is going to the Pacers. I kind of have him locked going to the Pacers unless something crazy happens. Azura Thompson's the guy that I really don't know. I think some people like Azura Thompson more than Amen because they think they can kind of fit in more positions. I think a lot of teams have point guards, so they don't necessarily want to add a point guard like Amen to the team. But maybe if you had Azura on the team playing the 3, a bit more interchangeable. He's a bit more of a unicorn in the sense that you don't have a facilitator playing those positions as much as you'll find him at the point guard. So it's a lot of stuff about Azur that makes him intriguing, based on how where his position is and what it is that he's going to do for your team from the 2 or the 3. So I have the Magic going to Azur Thompson, but I don't actually know if I like Azur Thompson more than I like Jarris Walker or Cam Whitmore or Grady Dick for that matter. I don't know that I do. Not necessarily. I think Azur Thompson's a hell of a player, but I think those guys are hell of a players too, and I think I like them a little more. Like, for example, do I want Azur Thompson or Anthony Black? Well, if I need a point guard, I'm likely going to go to Anthony Black. But when you look a little closer at Anthony Black, you realize he's 6'7", 200 pounds, just like Azur Thompson. So if you want to reimagine Anthony Black as a 2 or a 3, it shouldn't be a reason you can't have him do the exact same thing as Azur Thompson does. Obviously, he's not as athletic as Azur Thompson, but he's a better defensive player, I think, than Azur Thompson. Don't quote me on that. But they're comparable in the sense they're the same dang size, and they pretty much do some of the same things. So it's like, if I'm the Magic, maybe I want to go with Anthony Black. You know what I mean? Maybe instead of Azur Thompson. Not to say that makes as much sense from a positional standpoint based on Anthony being a true point guard. But I just don't know that I like him more as a player. I don't know. I'm not certain. So that's where it becomes a little tricky for me. I think the Magic and the Pacers would be very happy, if they land either one of those guys. And I think the Wizards will probably take whoever the Magic don't take with that 6th pick. That's kind of how I have that looking. I'll have Anthony Black going to the Wizards. I think it's a guard that they need. A point guard is what they need, and I don't think there's a better point guard on this board than Amen Thompson or, of course, Scoot Henderson, and then from there it would be Anthony Black, in my opinion. So Anthony Black's probably the 3rd best point guard in this draft, and of course you don't expect Scoot Henderson to fall to anybody or Amen Thompson likely to get past 4. So that's what I see there. Anthony Black is somebody I really think the Wizards would love to have. I think him next to Bradley Beal is very intriguing. And I just like the overall size they bring to the table. If they re-sign Kuzma, you got Porzingis, you got A.B. Black there. It's just a lot there to like it from a size standpoint. If you want to go big, the Wizards have a real point guard to roll with. So I hope for the Wizards' sake that they do decide to go with Anthony Black. Maybe they go Cam Whitmore. I don't think that's too bad. But if I'm going Cam Whitmore, if I'm the Wizards, I feel like I almost already have my front court set with Porzingis and Kuzma. Maybe you feel like he could play some 3. I don't know. But I think that the Wizards need a point guard. And this is the thing. Just look like the Nuggets. They don't necessarily need a passport first point guard because they have Jokic there could get things going for them. So if you want to reimagine the Wizards, maybe you can just get Azur Thompson, have him be your facilitator from the 2 or the 3 spot, and just work your magic that way. Get you a shoot first point guard at the Wizards with the Wizards, and then move that way. Because I think a lot of teams may look at the Denver and the Golden State model as having facilitators in other positions as a plus now, since those teams over the last 2 teams have won a championship. So I don't think that that's the craziest thing in the world to have a non-point guard be your main facilitator anymore. I think that's over with. So that's something I want to say. I don't know that the Wizards don't think of themselves that way. Maybe they signed a D'Angelo Russell and then, of course, drafted Azur Thompson. Now you got a shoot first point guard, Azur Thompson facilitating, Bradley Beal, and all these different other things that could work for you. So that's just how they can reimagine their team that way if for some reason they do want to go with Azur. So that's something I'm looking at on my mock. Mavericks and going with Derek Lively. I'm almost have them taking Derek Lively as a necessity, but I also really genuinely like Grady Dick on that team. I just think that he really does provide a whole lot of spacing for Doncic. Kyrie Irving, I mean, he's always going to be getting so much gravity and so much attention going his way, probably too much to want to deal with in regards to the type of offensive talent that Jokic and Kyrie is. So as much as I went on a tear about the Mavericks taking Derek Lively, if there's anybody that I can get at the center position with the Mavericks that I can have him as a lock, maybe I can trade for somebody somehow, get me one of those 2 Detroit centers. That's what I would want to do. If for some reason I can make a trade, if I'm the Mavericks, to get me a Wiseman or get me a Duren or somebody of that caliber, I'm taking Grady Dick with the 10th pick, and I'll leave Derek Lively up there. So I just wanted to kind of update that thought, since that's something that I'm definitely looking at in regards to my mock. yes, they should take Lively unless they got another path to another center. So that's important to me. The Thunder, I think, are going to take Koulibaly. I think it's a lot of talk about maybe him going sooner, but that's the only way I see him falling past 12. If somebody wants to take him, you know what I mean? That would be the only way. So that's what I see. Him going to the Thunder is probably going to be the case. The Raptors, I still have them going with Kobe Buffkin. Nothing's changed there. So that's another thing that's like, okay, I have a lot of these guys move up or down since I've been paying attention. To be honest with you, if they have, I haven't been paying attention. So that's another reason why I really didn't want to do another mock. I didn't do a whole lot of homework on the guys that I didn't know last time. So it's like, what am I really doing? Like, you know, my last mock is probably the mock that I'm going to keep. But, you know, looking at some of these names, I look at, you know, Jalen Hood-Schifino. There are a lot of places he can fit in. I think he can go to a lot of different places. But when you consider how many guards are in that range, Buffkin, Wallace, Hawkins, you know, Nick Smith, it's just so many different ways. Keontae George, there's so many different ways teams can go to address their guard position. I just think that somebody in that group is going to shake out and probably be there at 17 for the Lakers. I just think that's inevitable, man. It's inevitable that the Lakers are going to have a very good guard to choose from at 17. I had us taking G.G. Jackson. I still really like that pick for the Lakers, even though I understand that he's going to take some time to develop and may not be necessarily the best fit for us based on that. But I think his skill set and his height and everything that he brings to the table is probably exactly what would be best for us, both short-term and long-term, if he can tap into himself early and just be one of them good players that can do the things that he does early in this career. So if he can contribute early, I think he's probably a fantastic fit. If we have to wait on him a couple years, I can see the Lakers passing on him. But when you start looking at what the options are based on my mock draft, it's like some of the guys that we would rather have are gone. Schifino, Hawkins, Wallace, Buffkin are all gone. So it's like, in that scenario, I definitely wanted to go GG. But Leonard Miller, you know, you could look at a guy like Nick Smith there. And I'm curious about a guy like Noah Clowney. When you think about shot blocking, a 6'10", 210-pound shot blocker out of Alabama, that's just a big boy. And when I think about not wanting AD to play center too much, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world for us to take a guy like Noah Clowney either. I really don't. And when you consider what a shot blocker can do for this team, especially if a guy like Derek Lively's off the board, I would like the Lakers to take a look at what Noah Clowney could mean for our team as somebody who can help just take a lot of pressure off of LeBron and AD. I don't ever want to see LeBron play center again. I would prefer AD play center only portions of the time. And I don't think that this draft has a whole lot of quality centers in it. I really don't. When you look around at this draft, it's almost like, and I heard somebody else say this and I agree, that the centers are almost situational because the game is so small ball oriented. Everything's so perimeter oriented. So when you look at a guy like Derek Lively or a guy like Noah Clowney, you almost have to wonder, if they can't hit a jumper, if they can't hit a three, how much can you really use them? If they can't guard the perimeter, how much can you really use them? Now, I don't know if Noah Clowney can guard the perimeter very well or not. I haven't done enough homework on him to know that. But what I can say is he definitely blocks shots at a high clip, probably one of the best shot blockers on the draft board. And so I had him going at 22 with one of the Nets' 2 picks. And I just think that he's also somebody I'd like the Lakers to do some studying on and make some sense, you know, of him as we study. See if he fits, see if it makes sense to take him at 17 or maybe even trade down to get him. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Chris Murray, I can see Chris Murray slipping all the way to the second round, man. And the reason why I say I can see Chris Murray slipping to the second round is because he's like the least sexiest name of all of the names in the range. And that's strange because his brother was a 3rd overall pick and lived very much up to that. But it's just one of those things. I don't understand it. I don't get it. You would think that a guy like that would have so much buzz based on that. But I honestly think it's a good chance he could slip. Because I look at some of these other names that are behind him where I drafted, and I think some of these guys just have higher hype is the word, hype around their name. It ain't necessarily that they're better or worse, it's just that hype. A guy like Whitehead, Sensabaugh, Jet Howard, these are Maxwell Lewis, these names are hot right now. So it's like, do you really think Chris Murray kind of is going to go before some of them dudes? Not at this point. I really don't. I could see him slipping all the way to the Clippers or even further. So I don't know how he's been doing. I think he's going to outplay that. I wouldn't be angry at the Lakers for taking him, honestly. A lefty who can stretch the floor of the caliber of Murray, and he had a good season just like his brother, I don't know that he's not as good as his brother when it's all said and done. He may not be there yet, but he's a young player and he's a rookie. He could develop into something that'd be just as good as Keegan. So I like him. Truth be told, I like him. I just don't think that you take him at the 17th pick necessarily. But as far as him not having the hype around his name, I think he can actually. He's gonna play better than what people are giving him credit for, I think. But him falling to the second round could be a real thing because there are some other names that are popping up, like, as I've always mentioned, some of these dudes: Jaime Jaquez, Oliviance, Maxence Prosper. Some of these guys that I just think that they just have hotter names and they're expected to go in the second round. They probably won't go in the second round. So that's somebody I pay attention to see if he slips. I'm really curious to see what happens with Jett Howard. A lot of people think he's going to slip, including myself. I don't have him going too high. He's fallen to the Jazz on my mock, but I think I probably had him slip a little too far based on the hype surrounding his name and his ability to take care of the basketball. He really doesn't turn the ball over much, so that does make up for some of the other weaknesses that he has down there. The fact that he has fantastic handles and can shoot the ball as well as anybody. I just think that you're going to be an excellent executing team if you have him in a good role that fits his strength. You're going to be able to hit the shots that maybe the next team can't, and we know how important execution is in this league right now. So while I had Jett Howard falling all the way to the Jazz, at this point, because I know how other people think, I can actually see him going much higher than that, maybe even in the top 15. Like, I genuinely think there are going to be some teams that just are enamored with shot making and height, and this is the era where that is the case. So he's one of the more talented offensive players in the game, in the draft rather. He's just not very good defensively. So that's a theme amongst a lot of these guards, which I don't know what that's going to mean for the league, whether they're going to water down the league by not playing defense or they're going to be kicked out the league because they can't play defense. I don't really know where this is headed. But there are some guys out there who can hit a shot but can't defend worth a damn. And honestly, I don't want them anywhere near my team. I don't want those guys anywhere near my team. Bryce Sensabaugh, same thing. 6'6", 235 pounds, all offense. What are the 335 pounds for if you can't play no defense? That's what'll frustrate me about Bryce Sensabaugh. There's no way I want a guy who can play that well offensively, being that dang big, but undersized just the same for the 4 spot, and can't play no damn defense. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. So that's kind of how I feel about that. Maxwell Lewis is a guy whose name is on fire. I haven't watched enough of him to know if he's actually as good of a player as everybody thinks he is. But from what I did see, as I mentioned many times in that video, he plays with his back to the basket and creates that way. So I think that's intriguing to a degree, but it can also be a little outdated, so you don't really know how that's going to work. But ultimately, if he can hit some shots like he did in the first half of his college year, he's definitely going to be somebody who's going to play better than where I have him at 30th with the Clips. And Dariq Whitehead is such a fantastic catch-and-shoot player, but because of his foot injuries, I had him falling to 26. But if for some reason he's doing well physically and nobody has any concerns about those foot injuries, I can see him going higher, much higher than 26. So keep an eye on him to go in the late 20s, and so on and so forth. And I just think some of these second-round names are kind of hot, man. Like a guy like Jaime Jaquez. He's supposed to go in the second round, but his name's on fire to a degree. So it's like, are we sure he's going in the second round, or won't somebody just probably take him with the 29th, 30th pick because he's just a little more known than some of these other dudes right now? I'm looking at some of the names I wrote down. Some of the dudes went back to work. Back to school. Bobby Clintman. There was another one. I think Terquavion Smith also went back. So those are names that I thought could be intriguing. But will probably make for a better draft stock for themselves next year. What else do I see here that could be interesting to talk about in a moment? Cason Wallace is a player whose value can go all over the place. I can see Cason Wallace going as high as 7. I really can. I mean, not the Pacers. I don't think he would go as high as 7 because the Pacers, I think, will pass on a point guard automatically. But it may be even sooner. Maybe the Magic take him at 6. You know what I mean? I think his draft stock can be anywhere from 6 to 20. Honestly, although I'll be mad if the Lakers don't take him. And I think the Heat fans will be mad if he doesn't go there too. So maybe I'll strengthen that to about 18. I'll decrease that to 18. Also, Brandon Podziemski, I think that's how you say that correctly. I had him going 20 to the Rockets. I still like him a lot, man. I don't know that he's projected to go in the first round. But I think it's going to be a lot of sad teams if they don't take him. I think it's a bad thing if you got a guy who can shoot that well and rebounds the ball as well as he does from a guard spot. I just think it's a mistake not taking him seriously. Those two strengths, those are strengths to not play with. So when they call him the king of the swish. Most of the shots he takes, if he's going in, he ain't hitting no rim. I just think that's like what the NBA is about. That's essentially what we're talking about. Does he have some limitations? According to what I read, he does. So you definitely don't want to look at him as a star. You kind of want him to slide in as a role player shooter who's going to do some Josh Hart type stuff. But unlike Josh Hart, this dude is a sniper. So I think he'll ultimately be better than Josh Hart. So we need to keep an eye on Brandon Podziemski. I don't know if the Lakers would take him at 17. It might be a little bit of a reach to take him at 17, but believe me, if he happens to be on my team at 17, it ain't going to be me mad about it. Not at all. One of my favorite players in this draft. Who else, man? Some names here. Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to go over a couple of those guys. Jarris Walker, I know I don't mention him enough, but he's one of my favorite players. I know that I have him going to the Pacers. He's also somebody that I would love to see the Lakers trade up to get it for some reason. We find ourselves in that range. And we find ourselves with Jarris Walker, that would make my year, because that is going to be one of the best defensive players out there, and he's a big dog who can shoot the three, 235 pounds, type of guy you trade up for. He just simply is. So I don't think I've given enough credence to how much I like Jarris Walker, because we talk so much about Taylor Hendricks, we talk so much about Cam Whitmore, but I actually like Jarris Walker better than both of them dudes, personally. I really do. It's something about a big dude who can guard the perimeter and hit threes and dunk the ball repeatedly, be bigger than everybody else, rebounding. I just think that's what it's about. I really do. I think about guys like Karl Malone, big dude, LeBron James, even though obviously that's different. But the point is, I'm talking about big dudes that's just going to board and score, defense, board and score. I mean, it's just, that's what it's about. So I wouldn't be entirely surprised if the Pistons take him at 5 or if the Rockets take him at 4, especially since he's from Houston. He played in Houston as a college player there, so I don't think it's crazy if he does go earlier than 7. Also, I'm just curious about Amen Thompson, because Amen Thompson, we talk a lot about. I had him going 3 to the Blazers because I thought that somebody may want to trade for him, and if that's the case, he'd probably be more likely somebody they want to pick up than maybe some of the other guys in the range. Scoot Henderson, obviously, you expect for the Pelicans to try to trade for him with one of those picks, depending where he goes, either Blazers, Hornets. The Pelicans are hot on his tail, and they want everybody to know it for some reason. But I just look at Amen Thompson, and I say his range is really, really vast too. He can go anywhere from 3 to 9, to be honest with you, especially since some people actually like his brother better than him. And he's a point guard that can't really shoot, so that's not really the thing right now. You know what I mean? So I just wonder if it's not, if the style, the modern era style doesn't ultimately just keep people from picking him. But at the end of the day, you're not going to find too many better athletes in the entire world, really. I mean, if you really want to talk about it, Amen Thompson is a very elite, quick twitch athlete. So passing on him probably isn't a good idea for anybody not named San Antonio or Houston. I mean, or Hornets. So, like I said, I had him going 3. But I know that a lot of people like Brandon Miller a lot there too. I just don't have a whole lot of emphasis put on shot making like everybody else does. I just don't think it's the end of the world that a guy just be able to hit threes all night long. I really don't. I know that's what the NBA is made of, but if you follow me well enough with my Lakers, you just understand that my 3-point idea is you got to have 3-point discipline. Even if you can hit a million threes in a row, you still got to be able to know how to dial it back so you can have higher percentage shots for your team overall. If you got a guy that's shooting threes all night long, you're going to live and die by that 3, and that's it. And I just don't believe in it. I really don't believe in it. You got to have some inside presence. So that's my thing. Brandon Miller's still an excellent player. I'd love to have him on my team, obviously, but it's not like I'm looking to build around him. Absolutely not. I'm plugging him in, and he'll be an excellent shooter. And then when the next team moves on, when this timeline moves on, he'll be ready to take over the timeline. But I'm not starting my situation if I'm, I don't think any of these teams are actually in that situation, so he'll be fine. But if for some reason I'm like San Antonio starting over, I'm not dealing with Brandon Miller like that. That's not who I'm going to start this thing with. Nah. But San Antonio ain't got no problems in that area. Now, I wonder if San Antonio might not want to find themselves trying to trade from the Hornets pick. I'll tell you right now, if I'm San Antonio, I'm going to get greedy, man. I'm going to try to get Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson. And the way I'm going to do it is with all my future picks, and I got young players that people want. I don't think San Antonio has an entire like asset class full of youngsters, but it should be nothing for them to give away some futures if they really want to. Now, it could be a little risky given the fact that you do have Victor Wembanyama. You definitely want to add continuous young talent to him. But I mean, god dang, if you can put him next to Scoot Henderson out the gate, that might be the move too. So I don't know if the Hornets or the Blazers would be willing to do that. I don't know if San Antonio's even thinking like that. But I'm getting greedy right now. I'm going to want 2 of them dudes, not just one. So that's where I'm at with that. I think the Spurs should make a play for the Hornets pick and offer him some futures, maybe be willing to take back some contracts or something. But I want the Spurs to get greedy. I want Victor Wembanyama to be on a contending team right away. I want Scoot Henderson to be on a contending team right away. And if you put them 2 together, I think you probably have them on a contending team right away. So that's just what comes to mind. I don't think anybody's thinking of that. I came up with that on my own. Nobody's talking about that. I'll make that very clear. What else, man? Ryan Rupert going to Golden State, or Rupert. I just think that's a good fit, man. Golden State has plenty of shooters. They don't need more shooters. They need a defensive player with some length. And I think the good space for them would be Derek Lively as well. I love the idea of them getting him a center again. I don't know why they gave up on James Wiseman. Yes, I do. It's financial reasons, but they shouldn't have did it anyway. They should have bit the bullet and paid him and then get rid of somebody else. But it is what it is, man. I got them taking Ryan Rupert. I also think Noah Clowney's a good place for a good way for them to go. And I'll be very disappointed in them for taking another shooter, man. Don't take no Josh Howard, Bryce Sensabaugh, Keontae George. Don't do that, Golden State. You got enough of that. You got plenty of that. Do something that doesn't have anything to do with three-point shot. Especially since, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really think... I don't know. I got to take a look at what I'm thinking there. But Golden State, some of those young players that they have, I can move on from at this point. Jordan Poole's definitely somebody I'm looking to try to part ways with. That contract doesn't work for me. That power forward ain't coming to mind, man. That young power forward they got that they drafted a couple years ago. I just don't think that he was never a Golden State guy. He likes to dunk the ball. He's excellent, crossing people up and then darting at the rim. He's just a really, really fantastic athlete. But he's not a Golden State guy. I just think they can move on from him, replace him with somebody else. I wish his name would come to mind, but you know how I am. It is what it is. I forgot. But nevertheless, it's just one of those situations where Golden State young talent is just kind of okay. I really like Moses Moody. And I think his upside is crazy from here because of how impressive he was defensively and how well he hit shots. So when you talk about two-way players that are on the rise, that's one of them dudes they should not let go of. So yeah, just look at the Golden State Warriors as a team that's obviously going to have to shave some salary with the new collective bargaining agreement. And I just think that they should be looking to move on from guys that ultimately have been there too long. And they know who they are. I ain't even got to mention the names. It's just one of those situations where it's like, if you ain't starting a new wave for the Golden State Warriors, then you're going to ride down with the ship, and they might as well just trade the pick for an older player. You know? Why even bring on any young talent if you're still going to stay old? Just pull off a Blazers and bring yourself another rotation or something like that to try to keep contending, so long as you want to continue to do that. So that's what I want to say there. The Clippers need to trade up, man. Clippers need to find a way to get some young talent on their team. This is ridiculous. You got the 30th pick in the draft and nothing young on your team but Terrence Mann. That's about the only young player you got. I mean, what are we doing? I talk about this every day when I talk about the Clippers. Please reset your situation for the betterment of yourselves. It's really what's best for you, man. I ain't even speaking like that from a Lakers perspective. I'm talking about just somebody who wants to see a team do right by itself. In this Paul George, Kawhi Leonard thing, man, do yourself a favor. And so that's where my head goes in regards to that. What else, man? Let's see. I think that's what I'm thinking. And I just kind of jet back to the Heat. Leonard Miller going to the Heat. I just think the fit is really well there. I can also see them going a lot of different ways. But at the end of the day, they're coming off an NBA Finals situation. And, they could use some boostering of their young talent. They could use some more defense. They could use a new starting two, I guess you can say. Maybe a starting two or something like that. I like what Gabe Vincent did, so he's definitely fantastic. Caleb Martin was excellent. So it's not like I think those guys are all that bad, but An upgrade there, I think, would be great. And Leonard Miller would usher in a new era into the Heat. So I just like that for them. And yeah, this is just me recapping my own mock draft again. It ain't the first time I've recapped it, but I think at the end of the day, I just genuinely did not want to do another one. I ain't gonna lie, I didn't want to do it. But yeah, that's where I'm at, man. The Grizzlies. Now we got to figure out what's going on with John Morant, because that's going to determine a lot of what I think the Grizzlies may be thinking. I had them take a point guard here with Amari Bailey. I also think Bryce Sensabaugh might not be the worst thing for them in terms of shot making, since they have so many defensive players. You know, they can use another big guy who can hit shots. I don't think that's the worst fit. Jett Howard for the Grizzlies ain't the worst thing in the world. He kind of, brings something to their team that they don't really have. Well, they do have some shooters, but I just think that he would be a different type of flavor for them. City Sissoko, I think, is interesting for the Grizz. So the Grizzlies can do a lot of things with 25, including moving up. I can see them moving up and maybe trying to secure a Cason Wallace or something like that. I don't think that's crazy, because the Grizzlies do have some things they can move around. They try to get a little better within this draft range. So I don't know what they're thinking. I'm just throwing things out there. But if I'm in their war room, I don't think 25 is gonna cut it for me. I don't think so. I'm gonna want something a little better than that. So yeah, that's where it goes, man. I'm just gonna say this again. The Jazz should probably take a power forward with their first pick, which is the 9th pick, and they should take a point guard with their 16th pick. Because in my opinion, it's more likely you're gonna find guards there at 16 than you will in that first 10 picks. So if you take a guard with that 9th pick, chances are you're also going to need to take a guard with that 16th pick. Now, maybe that's what you want if you're the Jazz, but I don't want that if I'm the Jazz, because Cam Whitmore was on the board with me, and that's crazy. They should definitely not pass on him if he's there. You know what I mean? And I also don't think they should really pass on Coulibaly either, low-key. You know, if it comes to a situation where all this shakes out and they don't like what they see, I don't necessarily let Coulibaly drop to the Thunder if I'm the Jazz. Because at the end of the day, I genuinely don't believe they should take anything other than a small forward with that pick. That's the only way I would want to go, because obviously my power forward position is straight. My center position is straight. I have to look in that direction. My point guard I definitely need, but like I said, I can get that at 16 for certain. There is absolutely no way one of Jalen Hood-Schifino, Jordan Hawkins, Cason Wallace, Kobe Buffkin, Grady Dick, one of them dudes should be available at 16. There's no way one of those dudes is not available. You should like all of them if you're Utah. And even though Jordan Hawkins isn't a point guard, so that can kind of throw things off. He's the only one left on the board. But, you know, I just feel like if they reach for a point guard with that 9th pick, I'm pretty dang certain 16, they ain't going to want to take no forwards. They're going to want another guard. So maybe they see it differently. Maybe they go, you know what, Leonard Miller, I like Leonard Miller. In that case, they take a point guard there, and then they think Leonard Miller may be available at 16, and they get what they want. Maybe that's what they're looking at. Maybe they have an eye on somebody else. I don't know, G.G. Jackson, I don't know. But the point is, I think the path for the Jazz is definitely small forward first, guard second. And it ain't because we don't love the guards in that first area. It's because it's going to be nothing but guards with that second-time pick. Or you can package those 2 picks together and get up there and take Scoot Henderson, or get up there and take somebody like that. That's what I'm doing if I'm the Jazz. Make no mistake about it. If the Hornets pick is on the move and the Blazers pick is on the move, if I'm Utah, I'm making a call. We're going to see about that. Because, I like 9. I like 16. But if it can get me 2, if I can get Scoot in Utah, we out of here. You kidding me? You out of here. So that's one of them situations where I think that's a move if you're the Utah Jazz. I just think they're really in a good position in this draft, man. A very good position. Probably the best position of anybody. And you got to give credit to the Orlando Magic as well for having 2 picks in this situation. I had them taking 2 guards because they just have their center position, power forward position, any other big position sold all the way up. You know what I mean? You're not moving Paolo. You're not moving Franz. You're not moving Carter. Those guys are going to be all-stars one day. You keep them together and just get yourself a couple point guards. So with that being said, if I'm the Magic, I might try to trade up for Scoot too. I might try to take my 2 picks and give it to the Hornets, or take my 2 picks and give it to the Blazers, even the Blazers don't want no picks. Point is, I'm trying to make a play for those dudes. New Orleans doesn't have the best package for Scoot Henderson. I just want to put that out there. New Orleans, they want Scoot, but I think it's pie in the sky for them to get him. Because at the end of the day, you heard what I just said. There are other teams that can just outbid them. Or simply outbid them. Utah can outbid them. The Magic can outbid them. And a plethora of other teams with assets can outbid them. Including teams that may not even be in this range, like the Celtics. They can outbid them. So I just don't, Pelicans are ambitious. Their GM is good. But I don't think they have the assets to get Scoot Henderson. And if they do pull off getting Scoot Henderson, it'll likely be because they gave up somebody like B.I. and some type of swap that doesn't really make sense. And I don't know that they're better for that. Not honestly. I'm not sure that they are. And then another thing is like, okay, if you're New Orleans, you already have Zion issues. So if you can't figure out your Zion issue, you can bring Scoot to you. Your team is still not going to be good enough anyway because they need Zion to be that dude. If Zion ain't moving for New Orleans, the New Orleans ain't going nowhere. They've already proven that. They got all the talent in the world. Ain't like they weren't talented to begin with. They go like 10 deep and still couldn't get off the ground. So you turn a couple of those players into Scoot, what are you going to be? Same thing you were. Because Zion needs to get himself on the court. So that's what I say about New Orleans. They don't need to be thinking about adding those Scoot Henderson. They need to be thinking about how to move Zion Williams. So that's really what I want to say about that. I think I'm pretty much done recapping this draft. Mock draft that I did 2 weeks ago. I encourage everybody to go check it out. Took me an hour to do it, so definitely go check that out because I put a lot of thought into it and enjoyed the heck out of it that day. But today doing another one, if I'm to equate what makes sense, you know what I'm gonna come up with? What's already here. BL44. I thank you all for watching. Out.